You know that guy. The one who seems completely unbothered by whether women notice him or not. The one who genuinely doesn't seem to care about girls. His friends are chasing relationships, overanalyzing text messages, obsessing over who viewed their Instagram stories, and he's just calm, detached, focused on something else. Maybe it's his career. Maybe it's the gym. Maybe it's video games, or building a business, or disappearing into books. And people look at him and whisper, he must be heartbroken, or he's afraid of commitment, or even he's pretending not to care. But what if he's not pretending? What if the psychology of men who don't care about girls isn't about bitterness or trauma at all? What if it's something deeper, more complex, and honestly more human than we usually assume? Let me show you what's really going on beneath the surface. We live in a culture that tells men, almost from childhood, that romantic success is proof of value. Movies reinforce it. Social media amplifies it. Your worth as a man is often measured by how desirable you are. So when a man seems indifferent to women, it disrupts that script. It confuses people. Because if he's not chasing validation through romance, where is he getting his sense of identity? Psychologically, there are a few different pathways that can lead to this kind of detachment, and they don't all mean the same thing. Some men truly reorient their motivation system away from relationships, and that word motivation is key. Your brain runs on reward circuits. Dopamine doesn't just fire when you fall in love. It fires when you make progress, when you master something, when you build status, when you win. For some men, especially those high in trait conscientiousness or ambition, the brain starts associating reward more strongly with achievement than with romance. Closing a deal, hitting a personal record at the gym, launching a project, these things feel more predictable and controllable than relationships. Relationships are messy. Achievement is measurable. And the brain loves measurable. There's research in motivational psychology showing that when people feel uncertain in one area of life, they often double down on another area where they feel more control. So if dating feels chaotic, confusing, or emotionally draining, some men unconsciously shift their energy toward domains where effort equals outcome. It's not that they don't care about girls, it's that their brain has learned that investing there yields inconsistent returns. Now, let's talk about attachment styles, because this is where things get interesting. If you've ever heard of avoidant attachment, you know the basic idea. People who grew up learning that emotional closeness wasn't safe or reliable often develop a nervous system that equates intimacy with threat. Not consciously, they might genuinely believe they're just independent, but their body tells a different story. When connection deepens, their stress response activates. Their autonomy feels endangered, so they downplay the importance of relationships. They convince themselves they don't need anyone, and over time, that narrative becomes identity. I just don't care about girls. But sometimes, that sentence is armor. That doesn't make them villains, it makes them adaptive. The human nervous system is incredibly smart. If closeness once felt overwhelming or painful, detachment becomes protection. The brain would rather you feel numb than shattered. Then there's another group entirely. Men who aren't avoidant, not heartbroken, not secretly terrified of intimacy. They just genuinely prioritize other things at certain stages of life. There's a developmental psychology concept that doesn't get talked about enough. Different life phases activate different identity goals. In early adulthood, some men are wired toward exploration and experimentation. Others are wired toward construction and legacy building. Think about history. Some men married young and settled into family life. Others disappeared for years to build companies, write books, travel the world, or wage wars. Human male psychology has always had multiple pathways. In modern culture, though, there's pressure to perform romance publicly. If you're not visibly dating, people assume something is wrong. But sometimes nothing is wrong. Sometimes a man has simply decided that, for now, emotional energy is better invested elsewhere. Here's something uncomfortable but important. Emotional bandwidth is limited. Your brain has finite cognitive and emotional resources. Relationships require attunement, communication, compromise, empathy. If a man is pouring everything into survival, ambition, or self-reinvention, romance can feel like a distraction rather than a desire. And here's the twist. That focus can be deeply attractive to some people. Indifference or perceived indifference often signals self-sufficiency, and self-sufficiency signals security. It suggests that a person's emotional state isn't easily swayed by external validation. Ironically, the less someone seems to need attention, the more intriguing they can become. But we also have to address the darker side. Sometimes not caring is actually emotional burnout. Modern dating can be exhausting. Endless swiping, ghosting, situationships, ambiguity, rejection without closure. The brain processes social rejection in similar neural pathways as physical pain. Studies using fMRI scans have shown that the anterior cingulate cortex lights up when we're excluded. Over time, repeated micro-rejections can create emotional fatigue. So some men opt out, not because they hate women, not because they're incapable of love, but because their nervous system is tired. Imagine touching a hot stove over and over. Eventually, you stop reaching. There's also the role of identity and masculinity. Some men internalize a belief that caring too much makes them vulnerable or weak. They suppress emotional longing to maintain a sense of control. In certain social circles, detachment is status. The guy who doesn't chase is the one who seems powerful, so caring gets reframed as loss of leverage. But here's the psychological paradox. Suppressed desire doesn't disappear, it goes underground. It might show up as workaholism, hyper-independence, cynicism, or even contempt. Now, let me shift the lens slightly. Not all men who don't care are suppressing something. Some have simply developed a secure internal base. Securely attached individuals don't obsess. They don't idealize. They don't spiral over delayed texts. They value connection, but they don't hinge their identity on it. From the outside, that can look like indifference. But internally, it's stability. They don't chase because they don't feel scarcity. And scarcity is what fuels obsession. When you believe something is rare or fragile, your brain magnifies its importance. When you believe connection is abundant and available, you relax. You don't grip tightly. So when you see a man who appears unbothered, ask yourself which version you're looking at. Is it protection, burnout, focus, secure independence, or cultural performance? The truth is, human psychology is rarely one-dimensional. Let me tell you a small story. Imagine a guy in his mid-20s. He went through one intense relationship in college. It consumed him. He neglected friendships. His grades slipped. When it ended, it felt like losing oxygen. So he made a decision, consciously or not, he would never let someone destabilize him like that again. He builds his career. He gets in shape. He becomes disciplined. When women show interest, he's polite but distant. People say he's cold. But from his perspective, he's protecting equilibrium. He tasted emotional chaos once and decided stability tastes better. Now imagine another man. He grew up watching his father sacrifice dreams and ambitions for relationships that never seemed fulfilling. He internalized a quiet vow: I will not lose myself. So when romance appears, he keeps it at arm's length, not out of fear, out of self-preservation of identity. And then imagine yet another man. He is simply deeply curious about the world. He finds more thrill in solving problems, traveling, creating. Romance is nice, but it's not the central storyline of his life. And that's okay too. One of the biggest psychological mistakes we make is assuming that everyone shares the same hierarchy of needs at the same time. Some people are intimacy-driven. Others are mastery-driven. Others are autonomy-driven. These motivations can shift over time. There's also a biological rhythm to desire. Testosterone levels, stress hormones, lifestyle, sleep all influence romantic motivation. Chronic stress, for example, can suppress libido and reduce interest in bonding. If someone is in survival mode financially or emotionally, their brain prioritizes safety over connection. Your nervous system always chooses survival first. So what looks like emotional indifference might just be a nervous system conserving energy. Now here's the part that matters most. If you are the man who feels like you don't care about girls, ask yourself gently, without judgment, where that indifference comes from. Is it peace or is it numbness? Is it focus or is it fear? Is it satisfaction or is it avoidance? There is no universally correct answer. The goal isn't to force yourself into desire just because culture expects it. The goal is self-awareness. Because when indifference is conscious and aligned with your values, it feels calm, grounded, steady. But when indifference is a shield, it feels rigid, defensive, slightly bitter around the edges. And if you are someone trying to understand a man who seems emotionally detached, remember this: detachment is not always disinterest. Sometimes it's discipline. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's growth. And sometimes, yes, it's unresolved pain. Psychology doesn't reduce people to stereotypes. It expands the lens. At the end of the day, humans are meaning-seeking creatures. Some find meaning in partnership, some in purpose, some in freedom. Most of us eventually try to weave all three together. But the timing is personal. Maybe the man who doesn't care about girls right now is in a season of building. Maybe he's healing. Maybe he's discovering who he is outside of romantic validation. And maybe, one day, he'll care deeply. Or maybe he won't in the way people expect, and that will still be okay. Because emotional maturity isn't about chasing. It's about choosing, consciously, intentionally. And if this topic made you reflect on someone in your life or maybe on yourself, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think indifference is strength, defense, or something else entirely? Drop your perspective below. And if you enjoy unpacking the hidden psychology behind everyday behaviors, stay with me. There's so much more beneath the surface than we've been taught to see.